My name is Chipiwa Kodisang. I am from the Directorate for Counseling and Career Development. The focus of our conversation today is on preparing for your postgraduate studies. There is a context that needs to be clarified for your academic year 2022. We are currently just out of the 2 years of the pandemic, which still leaves us with a lot of uncertainty about the future. We are not sure what the winter holds. We are also not sure how will things change, but all this has got an impact on your studies. We are currently faced with a war in Europe. As much as it's very far away from us, we do feel the impact with regard to the rise in the cost of fuel price and other commodities. Currently, South Africa has got its own battles, which is the battle with electricity, continuous load shedding, economic recovery, and changes in the higher education, where there is now online studies. All these are factors that impact on your studies, but they also set the context of how you will be studying in the year 2022. As we are having conversation with your journey of your postgraduate studies, I thought of the mountain Kilimanjaro, and I thought this metaphor could fit very well because as you are embarking on your postgraduate studies, we can equate that to a group of people who are on vacation who want to summit the Kilimanjaro. Even in your case, as you pursue your postgraduate study journey, you want to summit, you want to achieve something. But it is not only the academic summit, it could also be personal. Can also be that through this postgraduate study, there are certain summits that you want to overcome in your own personal life, in your career, or in other aspects of your life. So I would want you to think about this metaphor as we summit through the journey of your postgraduate studies. This is the first of many conversations that we will have as part of your journey. Part of this conversation is that we want to help you to maneuver and navigate through the territories of postgraduate studies as you summit through your postgraduate journey. Our focus will be preparing you emotionally, psychologically, and practically so that you are ready for your summit. I thought it would also make sense to all of us if I use the example of a vacation. When we embark on a vacation as an individual or as a family, we need to prepare. I can imagine if this vacation you will be summiting Kilimanjaro, you will start by reflecting on where you are physically, emotionally, and check on the logistics regarding your journey as part of your preparation. So therefore, it's important that before you start this journey, you start by reflecting on where you are. This reflection will help you to gain perspective about your situation. What is your experiences of your postgraduate studies so far? Yes, you might say not much has been done, but what was the first impact when you opened My UNISA and you saw all what is expected of you? You saw all the references. What is it that you are thinking about and feeling towards how you will manage your studies? As you are reflecting, what do you need? What do you need to do differently to manage your studies? And it might be what you need to do as a person, your whole approach of life, and things that you need to think about differently, and your whole attitude towards the task ahead of you. Reflection questions to focus on what you did before when you could manage academically. I'm not sure how many qualifications you have. I'm not sure if this is the first time you are doing a postgraduate studies, but you might take some time to think about how did you achieve all other qualifications? How did you manage in other situations when you are faced with a challenge that could be overwhelming or that could be exciting for you? We earlier spoke about your learning context for 2022. You are embarking on your postgraduate studies on a transition from recovering from the pandemic to the new life which is still unknown. And I can imagine most of you have developed a system that possibly helped you during your undergraduate studies or other studies that you were embarking on during the pandemic. It is important to now recognize your new learning context and the impact it has on you. Things have changed so much from 2020 to where we are in 2022. The way UNISA is doing things, the way all the other universities have been conducting the learning has shifted. We have got so many things that you need to be equipped with as you are embarking on your journey. It is important to just understand how postgraduate students get impacted. There are some of the few conversations that I've taken or the themes from what most postgraduate students will say. And I can imagine that you can relate to some of the statements or they can help you to articulate what you are currently feeling. Some of the postgraduate students say, I don't feel confident about myself in postgraduate studies. And the fear of failure makes it very difficult to start. You feel very paralyzed. You look at the work and you just feel overwhelmed. Some students say, how do I make sure I improve to become an effective postgraduate student? Maybe you have heard about, it's very different. It can be very overwhelming. You are never ready for that. And you are thinking, how can I improve? Some people are still struggling to say, I can't find a sense of belonging in my postgraduate studies. Maybe you are used to undergraduate studies where students would meet and people would be discussing. Now you feel very lonely and you are on your own. You can't find anybody doing the same course with you. You might also be feeling, I am stuck with ideas in my head and I don't know how to express them in a coherent manner so that I can make sense. I can imagine if you are this person, you start writing or typing a sentence and you delete and you feel very stuck and your head even start feeling heavy because you are just feeling so stuck in your head and you are not sure how to move from there. We spoke about the financial impact of the war, of COVID, and how things are changing. You might be sitting where you are saying, I'm concerned about the financial impact, how things are so expensive, I can't afford anything. And this might be so heavy on you that is impacting on your studies. You might also be sitting and thinking, I need to know how to manage my stress better because it's getting the best out of me and I can't focus on anything. You might also be sitting and saying, I am really surprised at how I meet myself in postgraduate studies in a way that is unknown and unknowable. So you might also be feeling you were just on autopilot. You don't know how you have arrived, but also the person you are meeting as yourself in the postgraduate studies is unknown. It's just coming from nowhere. There are some few things that as you are preparing for your journey that I want you to be aware of. This we call academic performance markers. One of the things is time management. And of course, in our next conversation, we'll be talking more about it. The second thing is less guidance, more own explorations. As you embark on your journey of postgraduate studies, you must realize that there is less guidance and you are more on your own to explore things. You are also entering the realm of research. You are being introduced to the research world and to be prepared as an academic. You also need to realize that you would start reading broadly and in depth. That's why you would see there are more references, there are more articles to be read, and you also need to develop how to manage the information overload. That links to developing strategies to read academic articles and to be able to make what you have read your own by reading in an academic way, which leads to the issue that you need to develop more sophisticated note-making methods and writing essays. Furthermore, you also need to have time to think and endure uncertainty. The process is very uncertain, but you need to have the capability to sit with this uncertainty as you are doing your assignment, as you send the assignment through. Because without that, you will be so paralyzed and you will not be able to do much. You also need to have the ability to appreciate the possibilities and limitations of your field of study. You might have ideas why these are not clearer. Why can't I get all this? But where you are now, the level of your studies also have possibilities as well as limitations. So the question is, how do you manage your journey? As we start thinking about managing your journey, it is important to think about what type of support you need to manage your modules more effectively, to manage yourself, to manage your life. And you need to think inside and outside UNISA. Who will you ask for support? It could be support about finances. It could be support about, at a space where I am in with the uncertainty of, what will happen next. Maybe you need to speak to a nurse. Maybe you just need to speak to a doctor. Maybe you just need to speak to somebody who is quite informed about pandemics to say, what will happen next? How do I prepare? How do I just sit in this uncertainty? In managing your journey, it's also important to think about where and when will you study. It's very interesting that we could register, we could get our modules, but we have never really clarified or negotiated with ourselves that we need to study. And when will we study? And where will we study? It is important that you need to think about different possibilities about your life. It's not about studying, it's about your journey. It's also about what other things you want to embark on as you are studying. Maybe you think these things that you can embark on, they will enhance your journey. Maybe you feel that you need to start exercising. Maybe you feel that you need to start with volunteer work. Maybe you feel that you need to get a mentor. All this is important if they help you to manage your journey. It's important that we have got a preparation. You need to prepare for postgraduate studies. And when you are preparing, you also need to look at where you are in different aspects of your life. In the beginning, I've mentioned that the purpose of this process is to support you and to prepare you emotionally, psychologically, and practically. But not only to focus on UNISA studies, but also to look at you holistically. Because we are fully aware if one area of your life needs attention, it could affect your studies. So just take a moment and reflect on the different aspects of your life. Where are you in your career, personal relationship, families? What are the things that bothers you? What are the things that excite you? And how does all your activities contribute towards you as a person and you as a postgraduate student and your studies? As part of preparation, we really need to emphasize that you need to negotiate support. If you are studying at UNISA for the first time, you need to understand that your success is not only dependent on your own efforts. You need other people such as your family, employer, and friends. Negotiating the support of others means that you will need help. You need people who can help you in your life understand the demands of open distance e-learning, and you will be able to communicate your challenges, success, and needs in terms of your studies. You also need those people to help you when you are overwhelmed by the demands and you feel inadequate to match up to the challenge. You must, however, remember negotiation is a give and take situation. You also have to think about what you can give back to those who support you. This can range from giving others feedback about your study process, spending time with them when you are not studying, and including them when you reward yourself in your success. Even if you have been studying at UNISA, it's very important that now that you are embarking on your postgraduate studies, you need more of other people than ever. There is more demands. All these demands also impact on your other areas of your life. But it's important to be able to articulate the type of support you need personally in order to cope differently for the rest of the year. Of course, for now, things might not be clear. Things might still be vague, but always remember to negotiate support at different times of your life as you are embarking on your journey. You also need to remember that we are preparing for study after the COVID-19 pandemic. We cannot just move on as if our life have been normal. You must remember that we are in a unique circumstances that warrant us to take time to acknowledge our thoughts and feelings. We might still be feeling scared that our studies might be disrupted. Therefore, it is time to check in and make sense of the new reality, which is still uncertain, but it still affects us. It's important to take some time to also reflect on where we are in order to deal effectively with the new reality. Some of us are very reluctant to move on with life because you are just saying, does it matter? What if things change? What if I lose myself? What if I lose other people? Some of us are still in mourning. But it's important to reflect, because if we reflect, you might also need to reframe your studies. Maybe the reason that you want to move on and pursue these postgraduate studies, it's also to honor and mourn those who have passed away. You can only do that if you take time to reflect, and also reflect on where you are as a person just who is on the transition from the pandemic. There is still a lot of uncertainty of how things will be. However, we can still focus on our current challenges, because that will help us to deal with what we can control in order to manage what we cannot control. We have been going through a lot of motions. Some of you have been studying, you were able to complete your exams in the past 2 years. And you have been trying very hard not to be overwhelmed because you were focused. Even when you felt anxious and worried, you could possibly focus on your exams. Maybe that was the only thing you could hold on during the most difficult time and the trying times. It is important to take this background into consideration, since our reflection on our first semester or exams cannot be separated from our current context. If you wrote exams during the pandemic, you have got something you can look back and say, what can I take from the 2020 and 2021 years? What can I take from the journey of those 2 years to the new reality of 2022, which is still uncertain, which have got challenges? What can I take from those 2 years to my postgraduate studies journey, which feels overwhelming, which feels uncertain, like the pandemic? We must also prepare ourselves that we are not sure, will there be a pandemic, or we are outside of the pandemic? Will there be a lockdown, or we are outside of the lockdown? You might constantly have been checking yourself for COVID-19. We need to also check in and reflect on our psychological state. As part of reflecting, you need to reflect on your personal space, both emotionally and psychologically. Where are you? What are you experiencing? Thank you for taking time to listen to this podcast. I will encourage you to go to our website, which is www.counseling.ac.za/counseling. You are also encouraged to email us at counseling@unisa.ac.za. Thank you.